Cue that bitch up.
Watchtower to Superman. We've got an incoming transmission.
All right, we're ready.
All right, yeah. Welcome to Alterverse Podcast.
Where we put the alternate and altercation when it comes to comics.
All the time.
Was that enough alliteration today? Look, welcome to the Watchtower.
Watchtower.
Yeah, it's our new series.
I'm Travis Barth.
I'm John Chambers. This is our new weekly series where we do comment on stuff that we watch too many times.
Right. Last week we started with the Fleischer cartoons, and if you're just tuning in and this is your first
Watchtower event.
Right. Go back and listen to the first one. We told you a little bit about the history and stuff about like a lot of stuff.
But we'll recap real quick. So the Fleischer cartoons, the reason we wanted to do it this week again is because after we watched that one, and I don't have a lot of experience with the Fleischer cartoons, I got so excited. I was like, you were like, "Want to watch another one?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I mean, they're only 7 minutes long.
They're only 7 minutes long. You know, I watch more YouTube videos than that in a day's time. So, we watched another one. But the Fleischer cartoons, this is right after Superman was invented, really. And Superman's blowing up all over the place. And the Fleischer's company, which was a small animation company, was approached to do the Superman series, and like really it was beyond what they thought they could even do, but they were like, it's a huge contract, let's do it.
One thing we completely forgot to talk about last wean was Bud Collyer and Joan Alexander, who played Superman and Lois Lane. Bud Collyer and Joan Alexander both also played Superman and Lois on the radio series.
Right, because they wanted it to
have a continuity,
you know, unlike now in the DC universe. Back then, they were like, let's have continuity. That makes sense.
Right. Also, I've heard stories of how, like, it was kind of a backdoor deal. Like, they were just kind of like, hey, Bud Collyer, I don't know that he really wanted to do them. I think that they just asked him to because they wanted someone to be Superman. And at the time, he was thought of as Bud Collyer at the time was to Superman what Kevin Conroy is today to Batman.
Right.
Like, he was the voice of Superman.
Like the radio series, everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And even the 60s terrible cartoons, The New Adventures of Superman, also featured Bud Collyer and Joan Alexander.
I did not know that.
And the same narrator from the radio series.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Which, wow. I'm blown away.
They came back 20 years later and played.
That's awesome.
Their roles. Yeah.
And they were probably like, yeah, I'd love to do it now.
At that point, they did, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, I'm not out of work actor. You know, I've never understood actors that are like, oh no, I don't want to be in a franchise.
Yeah.
You know, especially sci-fi with rabid fans that will always adore me.
No matter what I do wrong.
I just don't understand it. It's like, I'd go to a convention for the rest of my life.
Right.
Honestly.
I mean, that's why I really love and appreciate Dean Cain. You know, all I've heard Dean Cain say is, I have no complaints about. I mean, there is really nothing wrong with walking down the street and someone going, "Hey, aren't you Superman?"
Yeah.
You know?
Who wouldn't want that? You know, God, we'd always love to be that. So, Travis, this was part of your research for, so everyone can find this. What we're about to watch, Fleischer cartoon, and this one is called
Secret Agent.
Secret Agent.
And this one is actually the very last one they ever made.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can find this public domain, Fleischer cartoon, Secret Agent. Last one they ever did. The opening's a little bit different in this one, but we'll touch on that when it starts. So start looking that up. Now
this was on YouTube. This is on YouTube, and it's this one I know for sure is on Netflix. So
yeah, and so with that being said, like you did oh my god research for Superman on 3 Earths.
I watched everything. Yeah,
a year's worth of research. And when you were watching it, I mean, had you seen the Fleischer cartoons before?
I had seen a handful of them. When I was a kid, I had a VHS...
See, that was my experience. Like,
I had a VHS tape.
When I was a kid.
Right. I had a VHS tape that had, 5 or 6 of them on there. Well, maybe not that. Maybe 4. It was about enough to fill a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes of them. And I watched them over and over again. In fact, when I got the DVD, I actually kind of passed over those because I'd seen them so many times as a kid. The ones that were on that original VHS tape.
Right.
And I watched the ones I hadn't seen before. And then I went back and watched the ones I had seen again because it had been 15, 20 years.
I mean, character-wise and story-wise, what's your takeaway?
You know, the thing about the Fleischers is this. Visually, they are so wonderful. But there's not a lot of story there. However, what they do is they tell a story without a lot of dialogue.
Well, you know, that's always been my argument. There's a big short film contest. It's one of the largest cash prizes in the world. In Louisiana. It's called the Louisiana Film Prize.
Right.
LAFilmprize.com if you want to look it up.
Go vote for Carpe Diem.
Yeah, go vote for Carpe Diem. Come to the Film Prize. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They've got some great panels, and it's a weekend event. And
when is it?
You know, I don't know when it is this year, even though we're in the entering in.
We'll look it up and we'll tell you next week.
Yeah, it's like September, October-ish or something. Cooler months, so it's a good time to travel down here. And it's a big street party that's over like 2 or 3 blocks and in the arts district.
If you've ever been to a Louisiana street party, you should go to a Louisiana street party.
Yeah, and they have a big music festival with it, the Louisiana Music Prize now, and the Entrepreneurs Prize.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of things tied with it. You might want to look into it, especially if you're a creator.
Right.
And they have different categories you can win in, and from the top 20 that are chosen. But the deal is you have to shoot in Louisiana, okay? Mm-hmm. So, the Louisiana Film Prize, I'm not even sure where I was going with this now.
A story without a lot of dialogue.
Short stories. It has to be a short film, 15 minutes or less. And the deal about short films that I've always hated is that they try to put too much.
Yeah.
And I saw this short film, it's the beginning of some animated movie, but it was about a paper airplane, and basically he found true love, and he like threw all these paper airplanes out trying to find her again. Like it was a one chance meeting type thing. And the story was one point.
Right.
It was one story. And that's what I like about the Fleischers. They're very one story oriented.
Yeah, there's definitely no B plot, C plot, D plot.
No.
It's just A plot.
And so if you're writing a short story, you know, Harlan's good about this.
Oh, great about it.
It's what we always say, you know, don't bury your lead and get to the fucking point.
Right.
And
Harlan Ellison is one of the reasons I became a writer. However, his long form storytelling I don't like as I don't like it
as much.
The writing is still beautiful.
Right.
The poetry is all still there, but his short stories get inside my head when I read them.
Yeah, I mean the same thing for me. I love Harlan. Bradbury's another great one. I had a wonderful opportunity of meeting the man before he passed. Bradbury is amazing with his short forms. You know, I'm not so much on his long forms, though. But if he sticks to a point, so that's my advice for this Watchtower episode. You know, from the Watchtower, kids, get to the freaking point.
Right. And
in your short storytelling, and if you can tell a short story, which is often a lot harder than a long form, then you can tell any story.
You know,
so
people have always asked me, well, why don't you make another short film? Because I can't tell a story. You know me way too well.
Yeah.
I can't tell a story in 5 minutes.
That's why I like episodics.
Yeah.
You know, I like the web series format, which is a serial format, old school, which you're doing with Superman on 3 Earths.
Right.
So we're actually in the middle of finishing pre-production on that, about to start rolling soon.
Middle of finishing, yes.
The middle of finishing.
That's exactly where we are.
That's a very, I think it's a good summation.
No, I think it is. I'm not making fun of you.
Okay. So let's hit that play button, guys, and get this thing started. We've got it pulled up on ours, and we're going to go ahead and hit play and get ready. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play.
And now we got the Paramount logo again.
And beautiful Technicolor. I love that these colors pop so much.
Right. Again, this great, the whoosh, the sound effects of these cartoons are also fantastic.
Right.
We got the look up in the sky, which comes from, you know, the cartoons we said, and then again this title card,
Secret Agent.
I mean that attaché case is exactly what we need to tell us what we're about to see. You know, this one was directed by Seymour Neidl, and Otto Fuhr. 2 guys did the animation for this.
Just 2. Like, this was a small shop, guys, and look at that lightning. Just it's what I think of electricity as a grown man.
And this is interesting because it's not faster than a speeding bullet. It's faster than a streak of lightning, more powerful than the pounding surf. And then instead of having the Krypton origin here, we just cut straight to the point. We're telling a story about Superman. Again, this is the last one. I think by this point the audience knew who it was, so they kind of cut this down.
With a big old S in New Times Roman font.
Yep, pretty much.
I guess.
Yep. It was before the stylized S,
but look at these cars. These cars are almost like
real cars.
Real cars.
The drugstore looks like a real drugstore.
How the door closes. This is back in the day where the phones were still like put one to the ear.
Right.
I mean, they didn't have full phone numbers, and you actually found payphones.
Right.
The glass shattering.
I mean, it's and then immediately we're in danger. And what I like about this is you get to see Clark save the day.
Yeah, because he didn't change into Superman. He is an average citizen doing what's right.
And kids, I noticed this when we watched this right before we broadcast this. Smallville didn't come up with Clark Kent wearing blue and red. It's right there in the Fleischers. He's wearing a blue suit with a red tie.
That's right. And he's not doing anything super powered there.
No, and look at the wind blowing on his jacket.
Yeah.
And those guns, and look at the blowout of that tire. I mean, that's just it looks real. And here we have our femme fatale again. Back to the film noir. This is very film noir.
I mean, she's got to be. She's one of the main actresses that was coming up at that time. That they based her character on.
Oh yeah, Norma Desmond was the character in Sunset Boulevard. That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah.
And here our villain is German and looks like Hitler.
Yep.
Very much a product of his time, as we said before.
Very stereotypical. Yet again,
Veronica Lake. That's
it.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at these colors, how they pop. Here's a cut that they do. It's a jump cut. Look at that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to talk about YouTube style?
Yeah.
That's a jump cut.
For sure.
And it's that pop, and it works.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it might have been, we had to do it.
And that gruff police chief there, man.
And look at the atmosphere. Like, atmosphere is what's, like, haze. A lot of people don't know that there's haze. They even do haze outside to make those lights pop, and you can see the stream of light. And everywhere you look is atmosphere.
And the lettering there looks realistic. In fact, that looks more realistic than the 90s Superman cartoon lettering stuff that they did on stuff.
And when people got shot, I mean, the guy was like, oh!
And the crack in that window, and just the forced perspective there with that
the details.
Motorcycle, yeah.
And look at that cityscape. That's like a matte painting right there.
And there's a couple of heavies, the bad guys speaking in bad German accents. Weichenstein,
that was great.
You like that? That's what they sounded like.
This is Batman's right out of that.
Oh, this so Batman, yeah.
I mean, I thought I was watching Batman.
And then this crank that's gonna put the heroine in danger here as they move the bridge, and then the car crashing.
Electricity again, the rays, and then she's getting up, and yet again another strong female character.
Right.
I mean, this is a secret agent.
Right.
She infiltrated the most dangerous gang in the world. And she did.
Right. And she's not wearing armor or anything. She's getting shot at.
Like this, in my opinion, comics does more for female rights than any other art form.
A lot of people would argue that, but like Zatanna in fishnets or whatever. But
I'm not saying look wise always. Like the comic books are a little too far sometimes, but I'm saying like as far as strong women characters,
and characters that you care about,
I love this. He's like, hello. Hello. First off, he answers the phone, hello. Yeah. And then the guy obviously gets shot, and he's like, hello.
Something went wrong.
Hello, are you still there? And it's like, really? Come on. But this right here, the color
and the fire.
Yeah.
That, you know. And there we've got the monocle. That's how you know he's the bad guy.
And look at the detail in the elevator.
Oh yeah.
I love that. Where Superman breaks those ropes and it's like you see him getting undressed.
Right.
Like he even took the pants off.
Yeah. And this is great. The cutback that right there was a setup for what's going to happen here in a second.
Yeah.
Seeing the elevator go down, and then he stops them. I mean, this is just him being Superman. As I said, it's an adventure story, and it's not. There's not a lot of depth in the story, but it's just a story of one time when Superman saved the day, and there we go back to the elevator. You know,
and I love his costume in this.
Oh, it's terrific.
To me,
and he's not wearing
perfect.
the belt. I noticed.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not wearing the belt.
Right. He's just wearing underwear that are in this one.
Right. And then here it comes, like Superman, the strongest man on Earth, but he's going to struggle a little bit.
Right.
Like, I love this. I love that look.
Well, at that point, he wasn't immortal. I mean, he wasn't. I mean, yeah, he could still do it, but it was hard for him to do it. He wasn't the most powerful. I mean, he was, but you know what I mean, I think. And then, there we go, he saved the day. And, wait a minute, did Superman just kill those guys? Is that what just happened?
You know, I don't know. It's a little touch and go there. But look at the detail on the Capitol. That's detail right there. And then salute and out. Truth, justice, American way.
Yep. And we fade out and back to the Paramount logo. And there we have our second Secret Agent episode.
Yeah, and great episode all around. You know, it's not one of my favorites.
Right. It's not mine either.
But I think... I don't know why it's not one of my favorites. I think it's because, like, they don't really explain too much.
No, and it is one of my favorites because I think the animation in that one... They're all terrific, but I think the animation in that one is one of the best of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, by far. But my big deal with that is, like, I wanted to know more about the characters.
Yeah, of course.
And, like, if they'd done, like, now I'm getting into writing. If they'd done an arc where it's, like, you know, and she came, like they did with the Batman series. Like, they had arcs in it.
Yeah.
You know, and the Supermans in Justice League. Justice League went a little far with some of it, but
didn't in other places.
It didn't in other places. But if she could have been peppered throughout the season. But you got to understand, it wasn't a season. This wasn't even on TV.
No, and it wasn't like they ordered 15 of these.
Right, they didn't order the first 9 and then a back 9.
Right.
It was like, hey, make another one.
Right, and if you look at the dates, there's a couple of weeks in between them. There's maybe a month in between a couple of these. It was just, and also there was 2 guys animating these. They took time to make, you know.
Yeah, and something we touched on in the first Watchtower episode when we covered the Fleischer cartoon, The 11th Hour, which is a really interesting one to watch. Very, very all-American again, propaganda based, which is funny. We went from Japanese to German, which definitely a sign of the times. But we mentioned it that. The Fleischers created rotoscoping, which is a technique still used today, and a brilliant technique. And they would actually trace...
Still used in Superman films today.
Right, still used in Superman films. And they would actually trace over live action to make it look more real, basically. Right. And they were like, well, let's see if it does work. So we'll film it, and then we'll trace it. And you can really tell the detail because of that. But this type of artist style is something that was not seen for years.
Right.
Years. Like, it wasn't even really mimicked at this time.
No, not at all.
By anyone else. Like, this was something brand new and unique.
And just a little bit more about the Fleischers. They also did Popeye, the Popeye cartoons, and
which looked nothing like this.
Right, and the Fleischers created Betty Boop as well.
And Betty Boop's their big character.
Right.
That's like their Mickey Mouse.
Right.
And you know, in pop culture, Betty Boop is everywhere, and there's whole followings of Betty Boop. I never understood that, but you know, a throwback to my childhood is the Popeye.
Yeah.
I told you Popeye, like
in our first episode, yeah.
Yeah, and Popeye was amazing to me.
Right.
Like, I love Popeye, and I love, Eat Your Spinach, and I love the musical movie that Robin Williams is in.
We disagree on that. But, I love Robert Altman, and Robin Williams is one of my two favorite actors. But and I think the casting is fantastic. Shelley Duvall's Olive Oil, I mean, perfect casting. The movie is a little long and,
a lot of people say
disconnected
that.
to me.
I understand that, but to me, it's something special because Popeye was one of my first heroes.
Right.
As far as cartoons go, he was probably my first hero.
Okay. Before Daredevil.
Well, yeah, because I was watching Popeye
as a small child.
Yeah, way before I could read.
Right.
And so Daredevil was my first comic.
Right.
Daredevil is my boy.
Right.
And I'm so, and the new series, wow, on Netflix. Yes, watch it.
We'll talk about that on.
Yeah, but Popeye, the Fleischer cartoons, they would rerun them.
Right.
And you want to talk about something that holds up. Mm-hmm. The animation, the stories, everything. These cats did something that literally lasted so many years on reruns.
Oh yeah.
I mean, anyone that had, if you had a show premiering today with the rights and everything else, like your family, 40 years after you're dead, your family's going to be still fighting over this, over your empire, because that's what it would be equivalent to. Right. Like the Fleischers created a microcosm empire, and I'm not talking monetarily like Disney. I'm talking on something that holds up. Right. Like in storytelling and style. And like,
I mean, kids are still watching Popeye cartoons. Exactly. Kids are still watching these Superman cartoons.
Exactly.
Kids are still watching Betty Boop.
So with this Superman cartoon, what did you walk away with?
It's just a fun ride. Again, like you said, not as much story as the rest of them. But again, I think it's a comment on the society at the time. There was the great threat of World War II, of the nuclear bomb, all that kind of stuff. Germans were definitely not looked at as as good guys, so they're the bad guys in this. Of course, I'm German-Irish, so I guess I would have been a bad guy at the time, but
I guess. But yeah. I mean, I think it's a time capsule by far, but I think it's more than that. It's extremely patriotic, which is nothing wrong with that.
No, there isn't.
And it shows Superman. It shows Clark Kent being a good person.
And that's, yes, and we commented on that as it was happening, and yes, yeah, and again, going back to what we said on last night's podcast, the second week's podcast, Superman is what I can do, but Clark is who I am. But here we get to see Clark doing what Superman does. Right.
What you would think is an everyday person, right, going above and beyond,
right in the back of the car, just like the kid and Dick Tracy,
right, just jumping in,
right,
yeah, and I love that about it. So I think that I really think that wraps it up. I love these Fleischers. They're short, they're sweet, they're fun, and they spur a lot of conversation. If you haven't seen them, go watch them. Thanks for joining us again on the Watchtower and the Ultiverse here. I'm so happy that we covered the Fleischers tonight, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Like, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, maybe it gives a little joy in your heart.
It does. It really does. It gives some joy. It gives some hope. So, thanks for hanging with us up here in the Bruce Wayne Tower, also known as the Watchtower.
Bruce Wayne Tower? Did you pull that out of your ass?
No, because he built the Watchtower.
Sometimes
he built it, and they were like, Bruce, you can't put your name on everything, and he's got a big sticker on the outside, Wayne Enterprises. You want to talk about a businessman? He's got Wayne Enterprises on everything. The Bat Satellite, Wayne Enterprises. It's like, how did no one figure this out?
Well,
but anyway,
it's because he's wearing a mask, John.
It's because he's wearing a mask,
and he talks like this.
I'm Batman. Mine was much more sinister just now. I'm Batman. Yeah. That's better. Anyway, so thanks for joining us up here in the Watchtower, and keep watching, and we'll see you next time. I'm John Chambers.
I'm Travis Barth.
And who watches the Watchers? We do, damn it.
Watchtower is produced by Ultraverse Comics Productions, recorded live at the Ultraverse Comics studio, with production support by Fairfield Studios and Broken Lock Productions. Executive producer, Travis Barth. Producer, John W. Chambers. The Watchtower is always watching.